Oh, perfect. And once we get started here, good. I just want to make sure it was going. All right, minimize. So hello to everyone. My name is Alana. I go by Afro Butterfly. And bring you a feminine energy boot camp. It doesn't just apply to women. This is for men as well. Um, as someone who trades both in the crypto markets and leverage on MT4, I really wanted to have a discussion with people about some of the things that helped me inside of this market. Literally, it's called Power of the Feminine. Attracting and receiving. So I really, I'm looking forward to getting into this. I might mute y'all up just because I hear a little extra in the background. There we go. Perfect. But yes, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I want to get into introducing these wonderful young ladies who are doing this call with me as well. So we have here, this is Somi. I met this young lady a month ago. She is a 7-figure trader, and she loves talking about some of the energetic things that happen in this market that have really made a change for her. She's a phenomenal listener and just a wonderful person. She's a mother of 4, and she's looking forward to sharing with you today. In addition, we have KJ. Many of you know KJ on this call. She's a 6-figure trader, and she also wants to share with you some of the amazing things that helped her in her trading journey. And myself, I'm a retired ICU nurse, and I found my way into trading, and I've had some success in it. So I wanted to share my as well. So first up, I'm gonna let Somi speak. One is getting prepared. What I will also touch on is the outline for today and differences between sensuality and sexuality.
Amazing.
KJ will be covering mind mapping, and I will be talking about under leveraging and self-worth.
Welcome, everyone.
Did she cut out?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it froze a little bit, but welcome. We're excited to have you here.
Freezing.
Yeah. You're freezing a little bit.
Wi-Fi has been tripping, so disregard that. Thank you for powering through. But I'm gonna let Somi get into her portion of the discussion. So hopefully you heard most of my intro, but I'm really proud and honored to know both of these ladies, and we're chart nerds, so we talk trading all the time. So Somi, if you can go ahead and let the people know why you're passionate about trading.
All right, perfect. Well, welcome everyone. I'm super excited to have all the discussions that we're going to have tonight. And I'm hoping that like we're actually going to just have an open discussion about the feminine traits when it comes to trading. So today I just wanted to go through something that I've been studying for the last 10 years. I'm just trying to go live on Facebook here as well. But I'll tell you a little bit about my journey and what brought me to studying the feminine and the masculine. And that was just, I went through a really bad separation 10 years ago. I was pregnant, I was laid off. The youth shelter that I was running had actually shut down because of funding. And then I was pregnant, put on bed rest, and I came home. And because I'd been working so much, I didn't realize what was going on in my house. And what was going on in my house was that my husband was having an affair, and he was actually like really in love with this person. So we had spent 16 years together, and all of a sudden this person from the outside had more control or had more influence is the word I'm looking for than I did. And I was like, what is that? Why is that happening? I'm in a mix of pain. I was just like bewildered and shocked. how he became a different person for this person. In any event, our marriage broke down. He, a couple of years later, married this woman. I had my fourth child. And in the midst of that, I just went through a journey because at the same time, my mom had passed away with breast cancer as well. And so here I was without the matriarch in my family, trying to figure out who I was. And the one person that knew me the most was now gone from the earth. And this other person that I had made my family had disappeared as well, and was making choices to protect that relationship and to grow that relationship, which was actually like harming me and the kids. And so I came to this place where I was like, oh my God, like, how did this happen? What beliefs did I have in place that made this happen? And how do I get through this pain? And it was immense pain. I remember crying myself to sleep. I remember, on the basement floor, renting out the 3 bedrooms upstairs, bringing all the kids into our unfinished basement so that the house doesn't go into foreclosure. I remember trying to figure out how to have a newborn baby and 3 other kids and create income. And some of the things that I discovered in that is that our ability to be magnetic as women. And so I remember there was a couple of times I was crying so hard that the light bulbs above me like broke, or I was so upset in the house that electrical things, like from the dishwasher to the washer and dryer to the furnace, like it wasn't an old house. It was 3 years old in one of the best neighborhoods in Alberta, in Canada. That's where I'm from. And everything kept breaking around me. And I was like, what is that? And then in addition to that, I had written in my journal, I want to be a millionaire. How do I become a millionaire? And I remember that all of a sudden these guys would start messaging me on Facebook, all multimillionaires, but all still married and want to cheat on their wives. And so I began to realize like there's a power that we have to attract things into our life, but it can be based on our broken thoughts, and it can also be based on our unforgiveness, and it can also be based on our desires. So I don't know if you guys have had that experience where you have actually called things into your life and you recognize that there's patterns being attracted into your life of the things that you don't want. And there's patterns of things being attracted to your life that you do want, that you do desire. So I want to talk about that tonight. And I'm not going to do my live, I guess, because I can't get it started. So let me just share my screen. And then I'm going to share with you why this is important for trading. Slideshow, there we go. So the process that I had to go through is to redefine femininity. What was it? When I was growing up, what was told to me was don't depend on a man, don't depend on anybody, just depend on yourself. And so the thought process that brought me into my marriage was that it was purely just attraction and entertainment that brought me into the person that I chose. He was very attractive, and he was someone that was completely entertaining and someone that I was sexually attracted to. Because I'm depending on myself. I grew up as my mom was a single mom, and she was really hurt. And so she passed on all these messages. And I used to work like 60, 80-hour days. I remember having a baby and then the next day being back at work, accepting the position of executive director. And so I had to come back to this place of redefining femininity and the importance of being present, the importance of being now. And I also had to go to a place of how does the masculine and feminine work together, and dispel everything that I thought was masculine and feminine and bring it together as one. Because really and truly, we are a reflection of the divine. We're a reflection of everything that makes this world operate from season to season, from the sun rising to the sun setting, from the oceans being impacted by the moon. All that divine intelligence that makes your heart beat, your lung beat, all of those have masculine and feminine qualities, but they are all one. And then how do I embrace it all? So the essence of us is the divinity that is in all things. And this is the place where we find our self-worth. We've been taught to find our self-worth from the things that we do, from the family that we come from the things that we own, from the relationships that we're in, right? We've been taught to find our self-worth in that. But the essence of a divinity is where we should find our self-worth. You are worthy of all things because the divine intelligence that runs through all things, that is creation, that is unique and it connects all things. You are made in the image of that, which means you are that. And that divinity has feminine and masculine qualities that run through your veins, from the way that your brain works, from the blood that runs through your veins without you even having to think about it, from your lungs being able to breathe without you even consciously thinking about it, from the ability to wrap flesh around cells and bring in a baby from nothing into something. The divine intelligence is you. And that's where we find our self-worth from. That is where we understand that we are abundance. I don't have to say I am abundance over and over and over again, because I am. I remember many years ago, I grew up in a place where there's hardly any Black people. And so I grew up trying to mimic what I saw on TV. I learned how to sing, dance, play basketball, be good at track, all of these things. Then I moved to a bigger center and I went to church one day, a Black church. And I found out that not all Black people can dance, not all Black people can sing, not all Black people. But I thought being Black meant I had to do all these things. And I came to the realization after the rug was pulled out from underneath my feet that I am just that I am. I am just that I am. I don't have to prove it. I don't have to speak a certain way. I don't have to, hang out with certain groups of people. I don't have to do certain things to prove that I am. I am that I am. And so when we're talking about abundance, when we're talking about divinity, when we're talking about self-worth, I am that I am. There's no need to repeat it over and over again. You just are. You just are worthy of all things, and all things are working for your good constantly. And the only thing that you have to do is believe. The only thing that you have to do is to align your mind with the truth. When you align your mind and your heart and your spirit with the truth, you start to see different things and you start to bring different things into your life. This is the key importance. A lot of us are coming to the markets. Those of you who trade, you're coming to the markets not believing I am that I am, not believing that you are worthy, not believing that all things are going to work out for your good. And so automatically your mind is seeing the things that aren't going to work out for your good. But if you just believe, you will start to see abundance in the market. Now, masculine and feminine qualities. We have a few differences here. And I'm going to go through this in some other slides, but just for you to take a screenshot or whatever you want to take for it. This isn't female masculine or female male. This is just qualities that show up when we face different things in our lives. We all have feminine and masculine qualities. The thing is that we've been cultured to respond in a more masculine way. I used to think over many years ago, when I started to read personal development books, I was like, man, it's all males. It's all task driven. Now we're starting to see that feminine rise, and we're starting to see more feminine focus personal development, meditation, sitting still, coming from the inside out rather than forcing things from the outside in. And so we're starting to see that rise of a different way of creating what you want to create in your life. Now, the wounded masculine and wounded feminine, we all can, I can actually really, what's the word I'm looking for? Relate to this, because I was a wounded female. I was so wounded for 2 years. I was just attracting broken things. I was attracting broken businesses. I was attracting broken masculine who had done the same thing that my husband had done for me, or they were separated from the woman, but they actually walked out from their marriage. For 2 years, I sat in that rotation. And the wounded feminine is the repression of the truth. You feel unworthy, shame and guilt, weak boundaries, codependent, always apologizing, over explaining. That was me. And with that, I was attracting forceful, dominating, manipulative, overthinking, overdoing, controlling, and demanding masculine. I wasn't only attracting that kind of masculine, the masculine inside of me, because the feminine was wounded, started to over respond. And it became dominating, forceful, manipulated, overthinking, overdoing, controlling, and demanding. And when I began to learn to express what was going on inside of me, when I began to learn to trust my intuition again, and to be connected with understanding that all of us are connected, all of us are going through our own things, all of us have a divine spirit inside of ourselves. And I started to connect with love. My life started to change. I started to attract things like I Am Academy into my life. I started to attract other amazing traders like Alana in my life. And many, many other miracles showed up in my life. So it began with me dispelling some of the lies of what we say about the feminine and the masculine. Some of the things you all could probably come up with a few things. Feminine, the use of control or the use of sex to control. They've said that we're emotional and crazy. Said that the feminine could be a gold digger. For the masculine, can use money to control. What are some of the things that we've said about the masculine? Selfish, uses people for sex. I don't know if you all can put in the chat, what are some of the things that you think about masculine that's unhealthy? Besides the really slim 3 things that I brought up. Let's see what we have here. Liars. What else do we have? Anybody else? Nobody else can think of something? Okay, let's move on here. So one of the things that I read this book called The Queen's Code, and she was saying, if we don't identify what we think unreliable, what we think about the masculine, then when the masculine shows up in us, we are actually saying the same things to ourselves. How many of you have been hard on yourselves? Hard on yourselves for working too hard, hard on yourselves for staying too focused, hard on yourselves for trying to achieve too much. How many of you have been comparing yourself to an invisible person? Either the perfect feminine that has been portrayed to us in media. So we're constantly have this graven image in our mind of what the perfect feminine should be. And it's like a ghost, right? And when you show up in any other way besides that perfect feminine, and if you show up in a masculine way, How many of you have been beating up on yourselves? Yeah, it looks like a lot. Definitely my worst critic. Yeah. See, these are the things that this culture has done to us unconsciously by putting these images of what we should be rather than knowing that you are that you are. I am that I am. Your presence is enough. Your presence, just the essence of you, deserves all things. All great things are coming to you, that you are blessed in the city, you're blessed in the country, you're blessed wherever you go. That is a law that has to operate. It has to come true. It's like the law of gravity. So once you start writing down a list of all the things that you think about yourself based on this invisible image of the feminine, and you write down all the things, the hurts and everything that you've received from the masculine, therein lies an opportunity to start redefining what it actually is. So I'm going to start with here. I'm only going to go through a few chakras here, but the ultimate for the masculine, this is going to surprise you all, but it's so important for us to know as we go into the market and as we believe in creator, as we believe in the universe, that what do you mean all things work to us for good? The ultimate essence of masculine is provision. The masculine gets pleasure out of providing. How many love to give? How great does it feel to give? Love that too, Gabriella. How great does it feel to provide? Now, if that's the pure essence of the masculine, and if we really believe that, as we go to the market is $11 trillion a day. The market has a ton of essence to provide for us. If we go to the market and believe that it is there to provide, and if we change our the market is like the ultimate masculine that has so much to give. But a lot of us go to the market and we believe that it's there to take, right? It's going to rip us off. The banks are going to do this. The banks are going to do that. They're there just to steal from us. But we have to understand that when masculine has abundance, it actually wants to give. It actually wants to provide, just like you would provide when you have abundance. So the ultimate essence of a woman, the base part of a woman is that of a feminine, is the feminine within us needs security, it needs stability in order for it to survive. Because the essence of the feminine is to multiply, but she can't multiply. And I'm using pronouns just so that we can say she, he, but I'm really talking about us internally. The essence of us is that we need to multiply, but you need stability to multiply. We need stability in our minds, we need stability in our hearts, we need stability in our sexuality, we need stability in our physicality. We need stability, which means the first step for the feminine is the knowing of yourself. Actually, the first is to believe I am that I am. The second is to know yourself. I'm going to flip this to sexuality because you can see the base of the feminine and the masculine is where our genitals are. So ultimately the man gives, the woman receives, right? And so what's really, really interesting of how God made sex is that the cervix is connected to the heart is connected to the brain. You have specific neural pathways that give you pleasure in every area of your life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, in every area of your life. Our one job as the feminine is to know what gives you pleasure and to ask for that from the masculine. The masculine that can actually handle filling you up emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and and physically is the one that you have sex with. Because the masculine is, their job is to bring their best, but they only bring their best when we call it out of them. And so the importance of this is that when each one of the cervix and the heart and the mind all have neural pathways. When someone aligns with your heart neural pathways and your brain neural pathways, the cervix neural pathways are enlightened. Once those neural pathways opened up, they say 0.001% of women can have a cervical orgasm. That orgasm is only based on the ability for you to receive pleasure, your ability to ask for pleasure and receive pleasure. When you receive pleasure, the brain starts to align that one person with pleasures. Now, here's the crazy thing. It only takes 3 pleasures for the brain to start releasing oxytocin, which causes the woman to start bonding to men that might not be your life partner. But all of a sudden, your neural pathways are connected to them. So the brain starts looking at them as that 3 pleasures. And when relationship starts going wrong with different value systems, different goals, all those kinds of things, the brain continually starts to look for those 3 pleasures because it wants that high again. And the crazy thing about that is that the brain is giving off this electrical magnetic energy. And so this is the electric and magnetic energy that keeps you connected to the person invisibly. And some people will think that's meant to be, but it's just our aura that keeps connecting to another person because we allowed them to be connected. Sex almost connects that instantly. So you can connect with someone and where your body starts to crave security, survival, stability, and pleasure in every area. And you actually just stunt your sexuality when you connect with someone that deeply too quickly, when they have no ability to do that. Does that make sense? Soul ties, exactly. Soul ties is all it is your electrical current coming from your body, from your neural pathways, right? And so your body releases a chemical and soul ties to them. So I wanted to say this to you because it is your job to know yourself. It is your job to know what pleasures you, what gives you pain. It is your job to set boundaries and discipline within yourself to protect yourself. Now, how does that come to the market? When the market hurts me, when I feel pain from the market, I have specific rules and how I deal with that. Because the brain will take me back to trying to get that pleasure over and over again. I won yesterday. I won 3 weeks ago. That was such a good feeling. So the brain will actually continue to make me go after pain and lose my money. And I lose my security, my survival, and my stability. Now I'm unstable and I can't trade. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And so what I love so much about trading is it made me a better person. It made me become present in my life. It made me pay attention to the pain. It made me pay attention to what makes me feel good. And so when I'm trading, I have different things that I've paid attention to. You guys have all heard of Tony Robbins. Before he goes on stage, he does this crazy, like, like, because he needs to change his state, right? He needs to be able to change. He controls the chemicals within his body. And so I have a list of my pleasures. I learned this trick when my mom died, because when she died, I was in so much pain. And I figured out the only way to recover the brain is to give the brain pleasure, which is why a lot of people, when they're going through pain, they'll go and sleep around, or they'll drink, or they'll do different things, right? Because the brain is looking for something to actually restructure those neural pathways, or for a reason to be like, why are these neural pathways connected to this person dying? This is painful. I don't want to go through it. We need pleasure. And so it'll send you flying through pleasure. So some of the things that I do when I'm feeling a little bit off, I have a list of things. Like I have gospel music. I have like I love smell. And so I have like a bag of things that really make me really, I love the smell. Frankincense and myrrh and African goddess perfume oils or things like that, that I just smell that shift my energy, shift the chemicals in my body to make my brain stop reacting the way it is. I'll go into my imagination and I'll start imagining what my life, what the life I'm working towards is. I tell myself I am that person. I don't repeat it over and over. I just remind myself whatever I create in my mind has to come into fruition. So that is that I am. Nothing can exist in my mind without it. Nothing, for the rule of the brain, nothing can exist in your mind that is impossible. Your brain cannot show you something that is impossible for your life. By the laws in which the brain operates, it cannot show you. Does your brain ever show you that you can jump off a building and fly? Or does it automatically be like, I don't think we can do that, right? So whatever you're imagining is your intuition telling you that it's yours. So I constantly take myself back there. When I take myself back there, my feminine can now operate where it's supposed to operate, in its creativity, emotion, joy, pleasure. It starts to ignite my intuition, and all I do is respond in worship. Someone said that they like to do journaling or their gratitude. This is the perfect thing to do in this space, in your imagination. You go into this place of worship because masculine needs worship. I'm telling you, the market needs worship. When I get 60 cents from the market, I said, market, thank you so much for providing 60 cents today. Thank you so much for providing 100,000 today. Thank you so much for providing $1.20 today. I am so grateful that I am receiving from you. I'm so grateful that you are providing for me. I'm so grateful I don't have to work for this. I can just receive. So masculine provides, feminine asks specifically. I ask specifically every morning from the market, this is what I need. This is what I want. This is what I'm grateful for. I look to see how the market's responding. I get into the market. I give gratitude to the market while I play in my creative place, my imagination. Now, how does the market or the masculine receive? When the masculine gets worship, masculine needs worship, and this means we need worship as well. When you wake up and you follow a schedule, you need to worship yourself. They have taught us not to worship ourselves, but you need to worship yourself. I feel like every day you should be on Facebook or Instagram and write something bragging about yourself, because we got to dispel. I woke up this morning. I woke up at 4:45. I had my charts analyzed in the first half hour. I took 3 trades. Man, I'm awesome. I am absolutely incredible. I can't believe how powerful I am to learn how to manifest and learn how to navigate the global markets. How incredible is it that I can see the US dollars going down, so now I know automatically to trade gold? How amazing it is that I'm surrounded by over 200 educators that are 7-figure and 8-figure. Let me tell you about the people that I'm surrounded by. I must be incredible because I'm surrounded by this, right? So worship yourself, and whenever you receive from someone, worship them. And I'm going to say this, sex is a form of worship. I don't know how we got into this place where we're worshiping people that don't deserve to be worshiped. There's toys and stuff for that. I'm saying worship only people that deserve to be worshiped, that are filling you up so much that you need to be filled up with them physically. That every part of your system is actually craving them, not just one part. Now, when the masculine receives that, the masculine is empowered, and their belief level goes up and they feel accepted. Don't forget money is a currency. Don't forget that money is an energy. You are already abundance. You are already the energy of money. And so don't forget that this market, regardless of who's manipulating it behind the scenes, it's still an energy. That energy will come faster to you when you learn to worship. Now, when you learn to worship, you start to receive status, you start to receive the luxury of life, the sweetness of life. And now the masculine in you can start beginning to feed your ambitions, achieve your successes, and start to acquire titles, right? So now you've reached this level, and this level can just be in your imagination. It doesn't have to be physical. But once you start feeling that you are whatever you want to create, multimillionaire, on yachts, helping orphans, intersecting sexual slavery, whatever it is that you are wanting to achieve, and you start moving in your creativity, and you start doing live videos on Facebook, you start speaking about the things that you care about, this now starts to attract things that are going to feed your ambition. Ladies, I just started talking about femininity. I studied it for 10 years, wondering what the hell happened in my life, why I was so broken down, raising 4 children by myself, and 4 of my parents passed away all in that same time frame, left by myself in Canada. Everybody else is in the Caribbean or in Africa. No child support. I didn't know that what I was studying, I was going to share it, right? Well, what you have to start moving in your creativity to actually match the frequency of abundance. Now, once you start moving in those, you have the ability to move in your strengths, you're provided platforms, and you help people solve problems. And with that gives you a heightened status. If you don't start to understand, every single one of us are born with gifts and talents that came from above. Those gifts and those talents, we sometimes think, I struggled this before this call. I was like, I can talk about this, but I'm not even in a relationship 11 years after my separation, right? I can say about all the different, from white tantra to dark tantra to all the different religions and cultures that I've studied around this. And I went through a second of feeling unworthy to be here with you today. And then I came to the realization, I am that I am. And there's things that each one of us were gifted. We didn't deserve it. We didn't have to go to school for it. We didn't have to cultivate it. There's things that you came to this earth with that you have to give. You have to give it. You don't have to be ready. You just have to start. And you are that you are. I am that I am. Okay, so we went over that. Western world slowly focus and celebrates the masculine energy. It's single focus. It's changing now. Conservative energy. We go out and get what we want. We seek divinity up and outside of ourselves. Sees self in what is accomplished. We find our worth in what is accomplished. Masculine is more connected to the mental body of the auric field. The feminine energy, there's a few different things I want to go over with you. The yin and the yang. Feminine energy is a dark energy. It's part of it's a dark energy. It's an energy of non-action, stillness, darkness, wetness, soil that germinates the seed of life. The Hindu yogi says, Shaka energy, feminine energy, is the creative life force, raw, powerful, fury, creates everything. It is the foundational energy that runs through everything that sustains life. It is the destroyer of the things that need to be destroyed and no longer resonant. Have you ever seen a tsunami, earthquake, tornado? That all is feminine energy, getting rid of things that can no longer exist. The feminine is a powerful energy that will strip down systems, which essentially is happening right now, is a stripping down of systems that aren't working right now. The feminine energy also seeks and sees beauty in everything. I'm always amazed when I go through the Bible and they're talking about the Noah's Ark or building the ark that like transferred the spirit, but how that spirit is so specific of what it needs to be surrounded by, from the perfume, from the type of wood, from the type of cloth, from the type of, like, it's so specific. It's as specific as the sunset and the sunrise. How many different colors are in the sunset and sunrise? Don't ever let anyone tell you whatever you're seeking and the details of what you need to seek it in is foolish, right? The masculine would be like, why do you need 5 different colors of purple in the sunrise or sunset? I don't understand. But that's the feminine at work. It is the energy of being, and it is the energy of receiving. Whenever I'm going into the market, I always say, what am I going to receive from you today? And that's why we trade along the trend, right? Because we're trading along the pathway that's going to allow us to receive. The shamanism relates to the feminine as the jaguar, predator of the jungle, comfortable in the night, in the jungle, hunts what is needed, leaves everything behind, sees perfectly in the dark. This is so important for trading. The ability to allow emotion to run through you and not own it as you're feeling. I'm scared. No, you're not scared. The brain is scared because the brain hasn't been there before. And to acknowledge that and be like, okay, I feel the feeling is scared. Why is it feeling scared? Okay, the brain hasn't been here before. Get comfortable in the night, get comfortable in the jungle, get comfortable. We no longer sedate those feelings, we allow it to pass through and we honor it. Thank you, brain, for warning me. Thank you, body, for sending me these messages. We haven't been here before. Don't worry, I'm in control. Don't worry, I have great guidance. Don't worry, we are going to make it. Start guiding the feminine and allow that, whatever that feeling is, wherever it came from. Mine was not being able to pay my, my house going into foreclosure. Choosing between paying daycare or paying the lights and the water, which got shut off, right? Because I had to pay for daycare. So there's a lot of feelings I have around security and about money that I had to address in order to trade well. Central creative force of everything in the universe. You are the central creative force of everything in the universe. You sustain everything. The very word that creates everything in this world is held in the woman. The very DNA that is the essence of everything in this earth is held in you. That's how powerful you are. You seek truth, you thirst for the truth. Emotional. We are emotional because we are constantly speaking to the universe. This is why women are better traders. Your emotion should be able to pick up the emotion. I can feel it in my heart when the market is about to shift. Now that I've traded and spent so much time with Naz, I can actually feel, it's like a pressure in my heart. I can feel the pressure down or I can feel the pressure up. And the only reason I can feel that is because I am a woman and I am emotional. You can sit and feel your emotions, take responsibility for them. Eventually, you can command it and demand it. You embody divinity. You bring things down and within, and then attracts desires without work. Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good because when you begin to start saying, I'm market, I need $1,000. I wish I could show you my chart. I needed quite a bit of money this week from the market. And that was Sunday night. And I said, market, this is what I need. Market told me exactly where it was going to go. I felt it, I heard it, I marked it with a blue line, and it literally, actually, I'm going to show you that. My charts look crazy, so I'm sorry in advance for my chart looking like a crazy person. Okay, just hold on here. Let's look at NAS. This is the power of us. This is so amazing. So I'm just going to go on our 15-minute time frame. Okay, so I had the market going down to here, 1305. And that's exactly where it went down to. So at the beginning of the week, if we look at the week here, sorry, those are all my lines. I just mark up my charts, all the magnet areas where the market might go. So, so this is where our market started this week. And look at it, literally wicked all the way down. So once you start spending time with one thing over and over, you're able to actually hear it and speak to it. And so this was my long trade that I took all week. And it literally, I put my take profit just a little bit above that. And it literally made me hundreds of thousands of dollars this week. That's the power of us. The ability to sit in your emotions and really, really, what is spirit telling me and what are my emotions telling me, and being able to separate that in your intuition and being comfortable with no movement. So we're coming into complete consciousness that we are all interdependent. I am not separate from the market. I am not separate from you. I am not separate from my children. I am not separate from any of it. I am connected to it all. Therefore, abundance is me. Therefore, whatever I ask for, it shall be done. Therefore, whatever I desire is moving faster towards me than I can understand. My only job is to believe. My only job is to dispel any beliefs that come against it. Okay. So steps to connect to the feminine, heal the masculine. Feminine and masculine can never be separated. The masculine is a protector. It's the inner vigilant. It is whenever you feel that the feminine is weak or hurt, the masculine is going to show up. He will constantly have a sword up if he believes the feminine is weak. Understand that your feminine is incredibly powerful. Your inner talk, your mantra work, identify the laws of the feminine, retrain your mind and align with those laws. Activate the feminine energy. How do we activate being more connected to our emotion? This is the interesting thing about the different cultures. If you look at the different cultures or tribal things that they did, from the red tents to teaching women to dance, all of those things, those are all female archetypes to actually activate your ability to connect to emotion. And so the feminine in the biblical times, they'd be in a red tent. The feminine would get together and they would teach things like the different smells, like frankincense and myrrh, how to lure people through smells. They would teach them about herbs, how to heal sicknesses, and really just adjust chemicals so that the body reacts properly. They would teach people about moving in your creativity, from dance to cooking to massage, to like all of these different things that this incredible information was passed on from women to women. The next part is to surrender to your inner wisdom. There is something inside of you that just knows that it knows that it knows that it knows. And let me tell you, I'm still working on trusting it, because I think I had a few years where I didn't trust it. before my split up, before all of that happened, I would, every time my intuition said to do something, I was on it. And every time it worked out. And I got myself in a challenging relationship that broke that ability for me to trust myself. So surrender to your inner wisdom. Try it in the market. If you're if on your demo accounts, if your intuition saying the market's going to go there, put the trade in on your demo account. Practice it over and over and over and let it prove to yourself. Don't jump out of the trade. Just do what your inner wisdom is saying to do. Connect to your emotions, do the shadow work, awareness of your thoughts, express your creativity everywhere, practice going with the flow. And this is important in the market. Trade with the trend. Be in nature, stand on the laws of the universe, know the invisible world is working for your good. Stop solely depending on your 5 senses for information. I think that's all I have here. So there's 5 more things that I want to share with you. And I wanted to discuss this more, but I think you guys are a little bit quiet tonight, which is fine. But the 5 things I absolutely love about trading is help me to believe that I am worthy. And my worthiness is not found in the things that I do. My worthiness is found in the essence of who I am. It's helped me to know myself, pay attention, be honest with my emotions, acknowledge, let it pass through, and give me a list of pleasures so that I can be in control of my body. And I know what's going on. It's allowed me to imagine the possibilities, that everything is attracted to me based on my imagination. The minute that I imagine it, it is true. I don't know when it's coming into my life. I don't even need to know how it's coming into my life. I just know that it's true. The mind can't conceive what is impossible for your life. So the very fact that you are thinking it and imagining it, it is true. It's allowed me to find a strategy that I can implement with discipline that can change my life. And the last thing and the best thing is I'm now present. I am present in my life. I am present with my emotions. I am present with my children. Guys, I was running I was a 6-figure real estate agent with 9 agents, working 13, 14, 15-hour days with 4 children. And I would resent my children if they had basketball and volleyball. And I have my eldest daughter is national volleyball player. And I'd be like, oh my God, how can I show houses and get you to practice, right? And I would never speak that resentment, but it would be I need to bring money in. And every time I can't bring money in, I'm bitter about it. I was the mom who had supper ready at 10 o'clock at night, and I wasn't present. And this has allowed me to stay present, not just physically, emotionally, mentally, intellectually. And when something's wrong, I pick it up. Now, when something's wrong with me, I can speak it. And I can also teach my kids, don't sit in those feelings, speak it. When I've disappointed you, just tell me. Stay present in your emotions. And yeah, that's it. Do I have to stay on? Now we can talk. Nobody has their cameras on. I think you're muted, Alana.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to present uninterrupted because I think your story is so phenomenal. And I was also switching over to my phone because my Wi-Fi is being interesting today. So again, why my conversations with Somi have been so powerful for myself is because I'm a very cerebral person and I get stuck in my head often. I was a child caregiver for my father. So from the age of 9, I was already okay, where's the medicine? And my grandmother had a stroke that same year and she moved into my bedroom. I took care of her from the time I was 9 until I was 18. And I'm 34 now and I'm still taking care of my father. Absolutely love my family. Within that span of time, I've also taken care of my uncle
and my grandfather, all of them moved in with me at various points in my life. They're just like, Alana's a nurse, you know. So, and I'm very detail oriented and meticulous. So I'm very cerebral with things. So finding a skill set like trading, I'm like, oh, I can do this and I can measure this. And then I'm like, give me that fib. And I, inside of my trading journey, I only met Somi roughly a month ago now, a month or so.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 weeks, maybe 6. And in that span of time, she's been so transformational to my mindset, you know. When I've been trading now for 3 years and I've had a lot of success inside this market. One of my first trades was it was US 30. I remember I was at IM London. This was before the pandemic. And before I really knew what I was doing in the market, I was studying so many things. I was like, I will learn all the techniques. And I remember I was trading that. It was US 30 at the bell. And I made $1,500 that day. And I was like, what did I do? Let me go review what I did. But to that same degree, I've had a lot of loss in this market before I got to a portion where I was consistently profitable. I remember my first year and a half, I was literally consuming every single strategy in the academy and studying some outside of it too. All for that to boil down to the way that I trade now. I don't use indicators because after extensively studying all of these different strategies and things, I realized that you can just connect with the market and look at it on a naked chart and make decisions in a very methodical manner, but also in a very emotional manner as well. I'm a very sensitive, very emotional person, for those of you who have met me. But I often detach myself from that portion of myself because being a caregiver or working in the ICU, like very life and death. I'm such a squishy person to be in such a brutal environment, honestly. It got to the point where I had to shut off the feminine portion of myself because I didn't need to know if I was hungry. I didn't need to know if my feet hurt. I didn't need to know if I needed to pee. Like, my patient's dying and I have things to do, so I'm going to be very organized and I'm going to get all the things. I'm going to pre-order their medication so it doesn't run out, so that when it, type A, OCD. The turnover rate for the more challenging portions of the hospital, like ER, emergency room, and any of the ICU specialties, NICU, it's one of two extremes. Either you're there less than 2 years because you get burnout, or you become a career veteran in that field, and most of them have unhealthy coping skills to exist inside of that space. All very nurturing, very caring, but you have to shut off a certain portion of yourself to be able to function in that environment. So, in referencing back to some of the things that Somi's touching on, going through different types of emotional trauma, and all of it doesn't have to be the same type of trauma, any type of trauma, those things can carry over to your charts if you don't handle them or deal with them. And trading is such an introspective skill set. I had to begin dealing with the things I have been accumulating over time. Trading is what made me retire, not just financially, but also mentally as well. Like, when I started addressing some of the reasons I needed to disconnect from my body. Like, it's not normal to run a code for hours and hours cracking. It's not normal. It's wonderful. The world needs it. But when you think about how self-sacrificial you can become, so every time I sit and listen to her, I sit and listen as a student, because it really transforms the way that I think about how I approach the market. And even now, like, I can be very methodical about my trading, but I've had some of the biggest weeks I've had since I started taking some of Somi's advice. I've been disconnected from my body for well over a decade and a half. Like, I could be functional, but not feel things, because I didn't need to know. I didn't need to feel those things, So reconnecting, oh my God, I've been so emotional. I've been so emotional lately. So emotional. Tons of random crying. Yeah, really concerning if you were walking by around like, what's wrong with that lady? But it's allowed me to start working on resolving some different things. What I will implore everyone, I'm sure everyone who's on this call, because I recognize nearly every single name in this call, you've heard about personal development and addressing those deeper things that'll help you progress inside of this space. Don't take that lightly. I was kid gloving it, to be honest. Like, okay, a personal Napoleon Hill. You know, even my mentor, when he introduced me into this space, he didn't even get into strategy and technique until we had gone through a solid 6 months worth of mindset. I'm like, okay, mindset. I read the book, audiobook. Got you. No, it is that, and it's not just mindset. Especially for us ladies, it's deeper than that. Something that we're really good at doing is working around things. Like naturally, we're emotional creatures, but we either compartmentalize or avoid things in order to be able to get. Like I have this thing I want to do. I have this end result I want to get. I want to pull 5K out of the market, and you're just sitting there clawing away at the chart. Step back, step back. Refocus, recenter yourself, and then evaluate your daily habits. Seriously.
There's a lot of messages to females that, yeah, there's a lot of messages. When you look right back to 1940s, how they used to have commercials of, you know, make sure that your children look good when your husband comes home, make sure you look good. And then therein began the addiction, where women were actually going to the doctors. The doctors were like, the male doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with them. So they started to, you know, start to give them pills because we weren't sitting in ourselves. We weren't being honest with ourselves.
Right.
We didn't feel that we were worthy. And all the messaging around it was saying that. And then we have our culture now that's over sexualized women, especially Black women and Latino women. And so we're denying our sexuality and what actually is great for us, right? Yeah. And not just the feeling of sexuality, but that it's not separate from anything else.
Right.
It's connected to all things. Like it's connected to our physical, our intellect, our spirituality, our energetic self. It's connected to everything. And so, yeah, it's going to take us coming back to knowing ourselves and speaking our truth. And then us coming into wealth, because some things need to change. That's been happening in the world. And this last couple of years, it's been really amazing to see all those hidden things come up. Yeah. And it's because it's just the universe is telling us it's time for the rise of feminine. It's time for us to step into. And my dad, who was like, you know, my dad's side is from Ghana. They're either preachers or what do you call it? Witch doctors. Very feared witch doctors, but for whatever reason, the whole family in their DNA really understood energy. So they were actually able to like raise people from the dead, like or heal people instantly. Like they just really understood energy. And my dad said, one of the things that I don't want you to do, Sami, and I used to be like, okay, Dad, get away from me with your huba juba, like your kunta kinte, what stuff you're telling me. But he was like, one of the worst things that you guys do in North America is you repeat your traumas. You go to counseling and you repeat them, you repeat them, you repeat them. And it's like, for him, it was like your invisible energy is drawing things into your life that keeps repeating it. And now I understand it even more, is like you're solidifying neural pathways. It's like those neural pathways, your brain's like clay, and it's like burning those pathways in, so that the electricity keeps running down those pathways and it can't get out because you keep repeating it over and over. And that's why the Bible says, let the weak say I'm strong, let the poor say I'm rich, let the, you know, all of those things, because we have to start saying who we are and start listening to everything that aligns us with that, and hang out with people that align us with that. I just read Will Smith's book. Every time Will Smith went on something he had to prepare for his movies, working out, regiment, his whole crew did it because they understood that being surrounded by people would help him get to success, and his success would help their success.
Yes.
So we cannot be women anymore that speak things that we don't want in our lives. We have to come into the power of word for women. Listen, there's an intuition that you have for when you meet a person, for when you have a child, when you have a man in your life, you see their gifts. And it's your job as a woman. We were given the ability to speak a word, and that word comes true. The fact that masculine wants to give means that they want to align with you. You have the power. They want to do what you want to do. Your children want to do what you say. When you walk into a room, it shifts the whole room. Everything moves to you. Everything moves to you. So the fact that they've got us talking and gossiping behind each other's backs, the fact that they have us speaking lies over our lives, showing us this graven image so that we don't feel well about ourselves, when it has nothing to do with physical. Attraction has nothing to do with physical. Sensuality, the thing that the masculine's attracted is to watch you come alive in your feelings, be able to articulate, watch you come alive in your purpose, watch you come alive in your passion, watch you come alive in what you want to do on this earth. That is really where their sexual attraction lies. That's what they need. And it lies with gratitude. Universe, money, abundance, masculine needs gratitude. What we say we're grateful for? What do we give them Hercules for? Is when they're moving towards the word that we've been given to speak over this earth. So no, we don't speak about COVID. Martin Luther King was brilliant at this. He said, I have a dream. That's what drew everybody to Martin Luther King, was that he had a dream that all of God's people, Black men and white men, come together. It was this dream that he had. Let's dream. Let's believe. Let's speak it over each other and speak it over everybody that comes into our pathway. Let's move in sensuality, in our creativity, in our imagination, and understand that those laws, hands down, work for us. We don't have to doubt it anymore. You are a multimillionaire. You are supposed to do what you have in your heart to do on this earth. Start speaking about it and it'll come to fruition.
But I think that's so pertinent and so relevant. And some of the practical ways to do that is through mind mapping. So that's something that KJ is going to touch on right now, because I think from anyone listening to the subject matter, whether it resonates with you or whether it doesn't, you can't deny that there's things inside of trading that's been emotional that you've had to address. So these things are unavoidable. If you want to become more consistently profitable and successful, whether you're a man or a woman, you have to tap into that feminine energy. So KJ, are you ready to share your screen, sis?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, Somi. I love just hearing you speak. It really just blesses me. And I know every woman and person on this call is, yes, saying thank you. Yeah. That really spoke to my spirit. And it actually, we've had this plan for a while, and it's so amazing how everything just flows into positioning. So I'm going to share my screen, and I wanted to get into a subject called mind mapping. And I think once you hear more of kind of the logical explanations behind it, you'll find the logical that resonates with you and within you, in which Somi just spoke about in regards to your inner voice and your femininity versus the masculinity. So let me go and share my screen. So today, these are going to be kind of what we're going to touch on, and tomorrow what I'm going to do is actually give you some tangible things that you can actually work on and do, and a document that I've shared with my team throughout the time that I've been trading with the company. So a little bit about my background. As you can tell, I'm talking about mind mapping, but it's really based out of your financial relationship. And what I mean by that in regards to that is before I became a trader with I Am Academy, I actually was a financial advisor with one of Fortune 500 companies. And then I branched out and I started my own financial consulting firm, and found I Am Academy at a point where in my life I got an opportunity to decide to make a change from one avenue to the next. Being in the environment that I worked in for so long, it just wreaked havoc on me and my body. And after a long trip, I was exhausted and I actually got into a car accident. Completely totaled my car. The blessing was that no one in the accident was actually hurt, if you can believe that. But I was pulled out of my car and I was taken to the hospital. They couldn't figure out why there was nothing wrong with me. But then as they ran more tests, that's when they found out that I had cancer riddled throughout my body. And if it had not been for that accident, perhaps I never would have been in tune enough to stop and stop working so hard, stop putting all of my energy into this job. And I probably would not have, maybe I wouldn't even be here. Let's just put it this way. My cancer cell readings from one of the leading cancer researchers that actually came to my case told me that I had 3,000 times more cancer cells riddled throughout my body than anything that he had ever seen. For me to be standing here and to be in front of you is just a blessing. And I give all thanks to God for that opportunity to have had that accident and to have had a year and a half of opportunity to recover and reset myself. From that accident, I had 13 surgeries. I went into a coma for a short period of time. There was many things that seemed like if it could go wrong, it just did. But now I'm able to look back now and say it was a blessing. And everyone, sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you can't see the blessing until you come out on the other side. So as we do this mind mapping and talk a little bit about what that means, perhaps you're in that space right now that you don't know that you have the blessing in front of you, but you're just getting through it. And so I hope that this gives you a little bit of your ability to figure out what your reality is, to see it in your mind, to becoming the vision and expressing that energy so that you're able to change everything that you see in front of you. So, key term that I want to look at for you, mind mapping is really taking a step back and saying, in my mindset, what is it that is the first thing that comes to fruition for me? What is it that I am clearly focused on? And what is it that I need to accomplish going forward? These are kind of like action questions, right? To get your mind going. But mapping it is taking it from your mindset and moving it to action and the approach in which you do these things, in which you do all things. And in mapping it, you always want to come back to, or I state that you should come back to the fact that you have a purpose. And maybe you don't know what that purpose is, or maybe there is purposeful items and agendas for different portions of your life. But in financial relationships, and you do have a financial relationship not only with yourself, but you have a financial relationship with everything that you do. And we, as traders, are looking at financial markets. So you have to clearly understand that money is energy, and that energy shows up when you show up. And you have the ability within you to change what that space looks like, what your mindset looks like, subconsciously, consciously, what physically you show up as well. So one of the things that I focus on is behavioral finance and economics. And it sounds like a fancy term, but it really isn't. It's talking about, so behavioral finance is when we come to financial matters, whether it's trading, whether it's getting a paycheck and our income, whether it's paying bills, giving money, lending money, receiving money, we have preconceived notions, biases, what we see as our reality. And that reality actually comes from your social economic background, your biases, and I will say prejudices that you may have grown up with. It also stems from your emotion in which you have attached to how you grew up and how your mindset was conformed. And not to give you a lesson in history, but if you have any background history and childcare or education, you know, the most formative years of a child is typically from 0 to 8. So the first 8 years of your life, you've already had these things set in to you as an undertone. That's your bias that you come up with. And for instance, and if you want to put into the chat, maybe you already know some of your biases that you come to the market with when you are looking at your trades and looking at the charts. You know, the biases that sometimes that I have to continuously step back and rethink things before I make a decision. One of them is, you know, this old cliche and this adage that I've heard time and time again, you know, oh, whenever I get money, it's just burning a hole in my pocket, meaning I need to spend it, spend it, spend it. And I used to hear that growing up. And I'm just giving you an example of what a bias could potentially be in your subconscious. And maybe you don't even realize it. But in behavioral finance, we talk about 9 different biases that can thwart you or potentially actually assist you in formulating your subconscious and bringing that to the forefront when you show up to the market. So I'm going to give you a couple of the biases that I think as women that we tend to lean towards, but just know that there are definitely 9, probably potentially even more altogether. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the loss aversion. So this is one of the biases when someone has previously gone through a trauma of losing a huge amount of money, and now their investments, their trading, anything having to do with money is completely overshadowed. So any decision that you're making is getting overshadowed by this trauma because you're trying to make sure that you don't repeat the same thing. Now, it can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, but understanding that this might be something that does happen. Somi talked about how sometimes money was used to control. It was a source of control to maybe in the household, whether it was one over the other parent in regards to one parent didn't work, maybe one parent did, and you saw that consistently, and you don't have enough money, or, we lost everything in the 2008 crash. And so now in the back of your mind, perhaps this is embedded in you. You have a trauma. And just like any trauma in our life, it will continue to flourish and come up in our decisions until you decide that you want to actually address it. So the other bias that will come up a lot of times would be a disposition bias. And typically this is when you see, very much so, I will say it comes up for us traders at some times. The disposition means that let's say you see that you're in a stock and you bought this stock and the stock is going well and it's soaring, and you trade out of that trade or you sell that stock immediately so you can get that quick profit. But then you have poor performance or poor stocks that are performing poorly, or a trade that's gone negative on you, and you want to hold on to it because you're just waiting for the better time. We'll just wait it out to see if that is going to come back around, and then we'll get out of the trade. Maybe if I can just lose just a little bit less, then I'll get out of the trade. That disposition bias pops up quite a bit, and many people don't even know that that's what's happening for them. And this can happen to people and give you the misconception of performance, not only for the markets that you're looking at, but performance for yourself. And you start to allow this portion of it to start to work within your subconscious, and decisions that you then now are not making rationally. The third bias that I wanted to talk to you about is the narrative fallacy. A narrative fallacy and money and finance and investing, it's when you've got, let's just say, a nice stock or that you're looking at, and it's wrapped up in a big, pretty bow. It's got a nice story that goes with it. It's easily sellable. Maybe somebody's trying to sell you something and they're saying all the right things. So now you've got this fantasy of, this is great. I don't need to look at any other facts. This is going to be the one. And then that narrative starts to play and you keep running with it, but you don't take the time to actually do your own fact finding. And then most times, this is when we see as investors or as traders that now you're making mistakes because it looked so promising, but you didn't maybe go to that 4-hour time frame because you saw it on the 1 minute, or that stock that someone was telling you about, you just took their word for it because, everything that they say comes with, rabbits and rainbows and, everything is golden. And that narrative is just playing a sequence in your mind. So for those three biases, those are the main ones that I do see as far as a lot of women, female traders, female investors, especially in my consulting business, that tend to pop up without actually knowing that those are the things that they are seeing and doing throughout decision making. So I just want to give a pause because I know I just covered quite a bit of information. If there's questions in the chat or if you want to unmute, I am happy to pause here. Let me check the chat. Okay. Heard that a lot growing up. Yes. Okay. Well, if there's no questions on that piece, I do want to tell you that behavioral finance in itself and our socioeconomic background in which we have grown up with, it's not that just because we might be past that first 8 formative years
Josh,
that we
I have a question.
Yeah.
My
Love
son-in-law,
your glass.
thank you. My son-in-law bought a television for my husband
Okay.
here, and the remote doesn't work,
Okay.
or the thing on the end of the TV that you're.
Which one,
I
like
don't-
USB port or?
That person. There we go.
got it. Thanks. So I lost my train of thought for a minute. Okay. So behavioral finance and economics, that socioeconomic, social, emotional, the psychology and how we look at our money and our finances, just because it's past the first 8 years, the formative years of what we grew up with in our subconscious, doesn't mean that we can't make those neural pathway changes. And mind mapping is all about that, understanding what our reality is versus what the biases that we come to the charts with. What are the biases that we come to? I mean, whether it's just basic banking or doing your own bills. I know for a long time, my mom just, her blood pressure would go through the roof just thinking about taking care of bills. Like that was just something that she just had anxiety around. So understanding how to get grounded and what you are feeling a lot of times will assist you. And then if you can name it, then we can change that narrative for you, or we can give you I'm not sure who said it in the chat, but we can give you anchors, things that can change that space. And speaking of changing the space, you know, part of the mapping, what I do with a lot of my clients is once we kind of get an understanding of where you have positioned yourself and what you're looking to do, then we look at understanding our approach and the action steps behind that. And I like to tell everyone, show up with blessings, show up with gratitude. And we've talked about gratitude on the call already. But that gratitude and the blessings and of understanding of I am right now, being able to name it, to call it out as to where I am. And then now I can move forward and move past it. Now I have abilities and journaling or incense or essential oils, or maybe it's something that needs to be physically manifested. I can now give blessings and say, thank you. I see this. And now I can call it out. And now I'm changing the narrative. I choose to consciously change my subconscious. I choose to consciously move out of the space of lack and scarcity or anxiety surrounding the finances, surrounding the trading when I come to the charts. And now I am moving into abundance. I am moving into my blessings. And so showing up to bless the map of where you're going is part of mind mapping, and the action and the approach is really when you decide to go from your money energy of your bias to now your money energy of abundance and growth and gratitude and blessings. And just knowing that when you show up, you have the position to change your focal point, or you can change that plan or the neural pathways in which these things can manifest for you. One of my good friends is on the call right now. And I love seeing the growth in her because she consistently shows up in the morning. And she shared a song with me. Shout out to Mary J. Blige. You know, good morning, gorgeous. You, before anything is good, bad, or indifferent, you have the ability to wake up in the morning when you're looking, before you even get to your charts, to change your neural pathway and good morning. Everything in me is good. Everything in me is where I need it to be. And everything in me is going to do the things that I actionably can to make everything not perfect, but blessed. And I'm grateful for that. As you have another day, as you have another opportunity to get on these charts. So the other thing that I was going to talk to you about is the P and the mapping or the purpose. So understanding money energy can be expressed in every portion of our being. And the portion of our being, what I'm looking at, yes, excellent, not perfect, better than yesterday, absolutely. Money energy, as it expresses through our portion of our bodies, can physically show up, and we need to be able to understand the purpose of showing up to the markets, and not only showing up to the markets as we're trading, but in all aspects of how we deal on a financial basis with anything in our lives. So whether it's your bills, whether it's your trading, whether it's your foundation that you're going to start, maybe you're trying to do an FTMO account, that money energy will subconsciously come out as well in your physical being, because your physical being is only the um, outward outward expression of what you are trying to do through everything that's happening subconsciously, which you are able to visually see. So if you're able to move with love and gratitude and being able to call out whatever emotion it is that you are actually feeling, that will also show up in our purposeful actions that we take on a daily basis. And what that could be for you is going to be definitely different for the next person. I always tell the example of, you know, my sister and I, we grew up in the exact same household, but how we perceive our money energy is very different. And so that shows up physically in a different way in regards to how we have to, two different people would have to understand what their actual biases are, and then play that back so that we too would be able to come through a physical space and show up at the markets, show up at our jobs, show up at the banks, wherever we're dealing with our money. We actually have to kind of walk through those steps. And that's one of the reasons why we call it mind mapping, is because before you can physically walk through the door, you have to know that you're going to put one foot in front of the other. And I know that it sounds kind of simplistic and cliche, but if we can't mentally see it in our mind to physically walk through the door, and our mind is telling our feet to move, or whatever that looks like for yourself, then our money energy is not truly transparently going through as a process in our minds. And so I wanted to just kind of touch on that portion of it, but it's definitely going to make a lot more sense. Tomorrow I will have a worksheet and a handout for you to kind of walk through some questions to help you. But the last point that I will touch on is just knowing that how we talked about the reason why we're here, power of feminine, the intuition when it comes to mind mapping. I look at it, well, the definition of intuition is literally just being able to acquire knowledge or a hunch that you would then act upon. And intuition, when we talk about mind mapping, is the reversal, is almost like the reversal of that. Once you have that intuition, when you are working with anything financial, you should explore that and try to backtrack that. And are any of this coming up because I might have a bias or something that could be coming up from my past? And then tracking it back from there. If that is something that's coming up from my past, or maybe it's an emotion that I'm feeling, where will that lead me so that I can then name it and then push through it as I'm naming it? Then I'm going to change that narrative. I'm not going to have a false narrative, and I'm going to push through it to the next portion of understanding the purpose of why I'm coming to this very moment, this very point, whatever that looks like. And part of what the worksheet I will be giving you for tomorrow will help you answer the second question that I have on the screen, which is, where are your focal points? And your focal points that you would be wanting to think about maybe from tonight till tomorrow would be, what are the actual action steps that I can know or anchor myself for to purposefully come to the markets as I'm trading, or to purposely come to, a meeting about setting up a trust fund, or whatever that financial relationship is that you may have some anxiety or emotion that is not quite pleasant. It gives you an opportunity to not only question yourself, but in this document that I'm going to share with you, it'll also give you an opportunity to start having a conversation with someone that you trust that can help you reset and come back to your purpose and your focal points. So that's what I have for you this evening.
Amazing.
I hope it wasn't too much.
Not at all. KJ, every time I hear you speak, it's phenomenal, which is why I resonate with you so much. I met KJ at one of many boot camps that I went to. I think the first was it Hawaii? Was Hawaii the first one?
I think so. In person, yes, definitely.
In person, I know we've met on Zoom prior to that, so that was last May. And I would say she's quickly become somebody I talk to quite regularly and take counsel in. So I'm grateful for that. So coming into a close, we have about 20 minutes left. I just want to touch on some of the topics that are near and dear to me. Make no mistake, this is therapy for Alana. The whole boot camp literally was born out of, I was just reaching out to different friends I have inside of space, and I have predominantly male friends, so I was reaching out to my female friends inside of space, and we already know that trading is such a niche category, and I'm like, okay, how are you managing inside of this space? How do you handle the anxiety or the emotions associated with trading? Even prior to that, the first person who I actually heard have a whole course on the differences between male and female traders was Tyrone Foster. Very first person who ever touched on it. And I first watched that course 3 years ago. He even had it pinned as a favorites in his favorite section. And straight up said that women are more skilled at trading, but they take longer to reach their goals because they under leverage. And men are more reckless and they blow accounts. This is generalities, but and they just push through a testosterone and just make decisions whether or not the decision is improving or not. Of course, of that, you have a wide array of personalities. William, again? No, okay. Not putting you on Front Street. Jesus Christ. Um, I say all that to say that those traits can show up in different genders, but as a generality, that's how this course came about. Is I was reaching out to my friends and like just talking about some of the emotional issues I would have in it. Like for years, I've had it where I've had amazing entries and my trades will go hundreds and hundreds of points. Like anyone who's traded indices regularly knows 10 or 20 points can be enough and get you where you need to go. But I would keep doing 0.01, 0.01, 0.01, 0.01. And they're looking at my risk reward and my win ratio, and they're like, excuse me, why aren't you increasing your lot size? And then it would get to the point where I would increase my lot size and have an anxiety attack. And then it wouldn't go my way because I didn't stick to my confirmations. I would either be moving my stop loss and profit far too soon, or I'd freak out and close it out second and went right. I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing too much. Like it was a whole thing. So for myself, this is therapeutic for me. And I'm just now in the phase of my life where I'm learning to address some of these things that I've had an issue with, you know? So trying to reconnect my body as it's been disconnected from nursing for over a decade and a half, and dealing with some of the relationships and dynamics that I've had throughout childhood and how that relates to my adult relationships and my trading specifically. I'm like, I need to tap into this. So we actually started talking about, feminine and masculine are buzzwords in the ecosystem right now, but actually going and researching and reading the Merriam-Webster's definition of that and seeing how that applied to me, how that applied to my charts was a necessity for me. And even in the short transformational amount of time I've been having these conversations and exploring that in and of myself, like there was a very specific, in the first year of trading, even getting into some of my personal story a little bit more, while maintaining HIPAA, I had a family member who needed a sizable amount of money because they had gotten into some legal trouble. And I'm up here like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I going to pull it from my 401k? Like I'm already trying to problem solve the situation. And even though I was 0.01, 0.01, 0.01 in it up, I got my behind on that chart and best believe I pulled 5 figures out of that chart. Now, the second I wasn't doing it on someone else's behalf, then it was back to 0.01, 0.01, 0.01. And I'm like, I just did the thing where I just ripped money out of the sky. Why can't I do that for myself? So self-worth. So I'll be taking a much deeper dive into self-worth tomorrow, because if I get on it today, we're gonna be on here forever. And I got things to do in a second. But I want some of the homework I want to give you tonight is to really sit down and write out a paragraph of your worthiness. And what I mean by that is really sit down and pause for a second and say, okay, if there was one beverage left in the refrigerator and I was thirsty, but someone came in and asked for it, would I give it to them selflessly? Or if somebody, my favorite seat on the airplane is a window seat, but someone who I don't know walks up and asks, hey, can I sit there instead? Because I really want to sit by the airplane window, and you're being a nice person, you move out of the way. Automatically, I'm talking about automatically without considering what you want. You bought that seat, so you shouldn't have to move. Or if you're thirsty, drink the beverage or split it or come up with another compromise instead of being self-sacrificial. I say that because women have the tendency, especially mothers have the tendency to be self-sacrificial automatically on autopilot. We love to give, but is your giving so much that you don't give to yourself first? And I was guilty of that for over 3 decades, very guilty of that. So when I started sitting down, taking inventory of my worthiness, like go through each of the major areas of your life: your finance, your rest, your sleep, your time, and really take an evaluation of how much of that time is for you versus how much of that time is for someone else. Even if it's something you deem as a necessity, just take stock of the 24 hours in your day. How many of those hours, minutes, seconds are you actually using for yourself? Like for real, come back with a number. So take a second, write a paragraph out like, I value my worthiness because I give this much of my time a day to myself. And if the sentence isn't matching up, if your reading is not making sense, then when we get back tomorrow, we might need to have a discussion about how things may need to shift inside your life. I'm actually going to touch on some of the actual neurochemistry that goes behind why women make the decisions that they do, and why it's a necessity that needs to change, especially if you want to have any type of success inside of trading. Literally made the decision 2 nights ago, and we're human, so we ebb and flow and go back and forth throughout things, right? Literally going back and forth with myself over whether or not I deserved rest because I had other things I wanted to get done for multiple other people as opposed to myself, and I was dog tired. I was up trading London, I was doing all these things, and I made the decision. I said, I'm going off the grid. I went, I got some rest, and I pulled $30,000 out of the market over the last 2 days because I decided to prioritize myself over all the other things people wanted me to do. So that's serious homework, because if you hesitate answering that question, or you take time to not do it, you're not taking time. That already lets you know where some of your answer is. And if you want a change in your life, or you want a change in your trading, or a change in the way that you treat yourself, you take a second to write a paragraph to yourself about your worthiness. And if your paragraph needs some tweaking, mine still does to this day. It might behoove you to reconsider what's a necessity in your life. Seriously. And even for myself, like, the lesson that I've had to continually learn is, yes, they're family members. It's like a non-negotiable for me. My family is like my one sensitive area. If I don't, but because it used to happen in like other relationships in my life, like school friends, but it got to the point where it's only the really non-negotiable relationships. The universe is like, you're going to address this. If you don't address this, it's just going to continue to run you ragged. So either you're going to address it or you're not. Either you're going to have success or you're not. And I choose to be successful. I choose to have abundance so that I can give back to the people who I consider a necessity. But it almost seems counterintuitive, but you have to address things for yourself first before you can address them for other people, or else you won't have air, room, space, time, or energy for yourself. But so I'm going to wrap speaking there, and that leaves 10 minutes for any Q&As or any comments or any feedback, and also any specific topics that y'all would like us to address tomorrow as well. This is a regular series that we do intend on doing. It'll be on a much more exclusive basis, but there's a need for this in this community, and I've counseled over 50 women in the last 3 years, and all of them touch on these things about self-worth and not knowing the practical steps to get their mind in order, and not having someone to confide in or take counsel in. So yeah, unmute if you have questions or comments.
No questions, Alana, but thank you very much. You're very appreciated, very much so.
Thank you, Gabby.
A
Thank
pleasure.
you for being here.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything I can do to help, anytime, let me know. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You go. I was just saying, if I can help in any way, just let me know.
What you can do is write your paragraph. That will help me immensely.
I will.
Anyone else?
Oh, that was you, KJ. Would you sacrifice your needs for others' needs?
Yes, I was putting that into the chat just so everyone can see it, and posing that question. Hopefully that kind of gets your juices flowing to answer Alana's question or request for homework.
Yes. I saw Tasha. Tasha, you unmuted?
Yes, I did. I just want to say thank you so much. Like, this was so good. And it's crazy that you talked about the worthiness. Like, I started, okay, so I've been training for a little while, and then I haven't gotten the consistency that I wanted. So I started talking to a counselor about stuff, right? And I was telling him about what I was trying to do and all the things I had going on. And the first thing he told me I needed to address was worthiness. And I just thought that was so crazy, because I'm sitting here thinking in my head, like, yes, he said this to me. And in my mind, I'm like, no, but I just need to be a more disciplined trader. And he's like, well, we're just going to stay on worthiness for a little while. And like, just hearing you like say it just, yeah. So this whole thing, like, I appreciate all three of you. You guys are phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. And I cannot say enough, like, how much this is like, yes, 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 and yes. That's it.
I'm so grateful for you, y'all. I met Tasha like in Atlanta. Is it 2 years ago now? Pandemic, just girl, the sweetest, most amazing young woman, and her story is so inspirational. Oh my God! If you ever feel like sharing, I think your story is phenomenal as well. But I really think you gravitate people towards you. So all of you that are here on this call, I'm grateful for everyone on this call, because it's just a reflection of energy that I've been putting out. And I think all of you are amazing. So thank you again for taking 2 hours out of your life to come listen to me. Oh my God. Anyone else?
I was just listening to Pastor Stephen Frennigan, and he was saying that surround yourself with people that bring the God out in you. And being on this call, I just feel like you guys just bring the God out of me. It's the journey and the path that I'm going on, and the part about being worthy is just so on point with me right now, because I have that hard time of always feeling like I'm falling short, and that's the journey, and I'm trying to get to the point where I'm feeling worthy. And so this was really on point, and I appreciate it. Every time I get around you guys, I'm inspired, and it keeps me moving forward, and it keeps me showing up. It even keeps me showing up when I don't feel like I'm worthy to show up, and it helps me glean those things that keep on pulling me forward. So thank you so much. I am so grateful and full of gratitude.
Man, DL's amazing. I actually be working an event with DL next month in Las Vegas. If you're in the Las Vegas area, check out www.mastermindsnipers.com. Ding! She's actually holding a health and wellness day and holding space for the community. And there'll be yoga, all sorts of holistic healthcare practices that traders need to consider doing if they want consistent profitability inside of the space, because when you take care of your vessel, you take care of your trading as well. So last call for action.
Well, thank you, Alana, for holding this space for everyone to show up and just be present. Thank you.
Thank you all. So I'll send out the same Zoom link tomorrow via email, the same way you found it the first time. We'll be back on the same link tomorrow to get into more of the practical tips, steps that you can do to begin shifting your mindset into more of the feminine, which is receiving from the market. Because literally, y'all, just reiterating for myself, I'm the type of person that can literally walk up on a strategy and regurgitate it in less than 24 hours. The only difference between me having success while knowing the strategy and me not having success while knowing the strategy was my energy. And it's of my technical belief that I could technically know a strategy and not be centered and grounded and have a horrible time in this market. And then I could not know any strategy, but be grounded, centered, and be in that energy and have a far more positive experience. And this is coming from a very type A, very OCD individual. Like being connected to that energy is a necessity. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all back on the call tomorrow. And thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Amazing. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. This is wonderful. Such a blessing.